6 American destroyers faced 23 Japanese battleships and cruisers. They should have died in 30 minutes. They fought for 2.5 hours. The Japanese had the world's biggest battleship Yamato. America had tin cans with torpedoes. The Americans charged anyway. October 25, 1944. The most lopsided naval battle in history. David versus Goliath at sea, and the tin cans won. Sailors and destroyers attacked the Japanese super battleship Yamato. This is the greatest last stand in naval warfare history. The Japanese admiral was dominating the battle, sinking American ships. Then he ordered retreat. Nobody could understand why. Taffy 3 should have been massacred. Instead, they saved the entire Philippine invasion by refusing to run, by fighting until they sank. October 24, 1944. The Philippines. General Douglas MacArthur has returned. American forces are invading Leyte Gulf, fulfilling MacArthur's famous promise. Thousands of troops are landing on beaches. Supplies are pouring ashore. This is the largest amphibious invasion in the Pacific War. If it succeeds, America can retake the Philippines and cut off Japan from its southern empire. If it fails, the war extends for years. The Japanese know this. They launch Operation Shogo, a desperate all-or-nothing plan to destroy the American invasion fleet. Multiple Japanese naval forces converge on Leyte Gulf from different directions. The largest force, commanded by Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita, includes Japan's most powerful warships, 4 battleships including the massive Yamato, 8 cruisers, 11 destroyers. This fleet is heading straight for the American landing beaches. Admiral William Halsey commands the main American fleet. His third fleet includes battleships, fleet carriers, cruisers, destroyers, everything needed to destroy Kurita's force. But Japanese Admiral Ozawa has set a trap. He's using his own carrier force as bait to lure Halsey north, away from Leyte Gulf, away from MacArthur's vulnerable invasion beaches. The trap works perfectly. Halsey takes his entire Third Fleet north chasing Ozawa. He believes Kurita's fleet has been defeated and is retreating. He's wrong. Kurita is actually advancing through San Bernardino Strait heading directly toward Leyte Gulf, and the only American forces left to stop him are 3 small groups of escort carriers. Taffy 1, Taffy 2, and Taffy 3. Ships never designed for surface combat. Taffy 3 consists of 6 escort carriers, 3 destroyers, and 4 destroyer escorts. 13 ships total. Against Kurita's 23 warships, they don't stand a chance. Taffy 3 is commanded by Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague from the escort carrier Fanshawe Bay. His task force isn't meant for combat. Escort carriers are basically cargo ships with flight decks. Slow, lightly armored. Maximum speed 18 knots. They carry planes for submarine patrol and ground support. Nothing that can seriously damage battleships. The 3 destroyers are Fletcher class. USS Johnston, USS Hull, USS Heermann. Good ships. Well armed with 5-inch guns and torpedoes. But designed to fight other destroyers and provide anti-aircraft protection. Not to engage battleships and heavy cruisers in surface combat. Their guns can't penetrate battleship armor. Maximum effective range is 7 miles. Japanese battleships can hit them from 20 miles away. The 4 destroyer escorts are even smaller. USS Samuel B. Roberts, USS Dennis, USS John C. Butler, USS Raymond. Built for convoy escort duty. Cheaper and smaller than destroyers. Their guns are adequate for submarines and aircraft. Useless against armored warships. These ships exist to protect merchant vessels from U-boats, not to fight the Japanese Imperial Navy. Commander Ernest Evans commands USS Johnston. He's 36 years old, part Cherokee and Creek Native American. From Pawnee, Oklahoma. Evans is aggressive, fearless. When Johnston was commissioned in 1943, he told the crew, "This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way, and anyone who doesn't want to go along had better get off right now." October 25, 1944, 0645 hours. Evans is about to get his wish. Harm's way is coming directly at him. 0645 hours. October 25, 1944. Lookouts on Taffy 3 ships spot what they think are American vessels on the northern horizon. Ships emerging from San Bernardino Strait, maybe part of Halsey's Third Fleet. Then the identification officer on Fanshawe Bay looks through binoculars, sees distinctive pagoda-style masts, Japanese design. Those aren't American ships. Those are enemy warships, a lot of them. 0647 hours. The Japanese open fire. Massive water spouts erupt around Taffy 3's carriers. Shells the size of small cars landing nearby. Colored splashes. Japanese ships use dye in their shells to identify which ship is shooting. Red, green, yellow, purple water spouts towering 200 feet high. Beautiful and terrifying. Getting closer with each salvo. Admiral Sprague can't believe what he's seeing. The Japanese fleet should be retreating. Halsey said they were defeated, but here they are. 23 warships bearing down on his 13 ships. His carriers can't outrun them. Japanese cruisers make 30 knots. His carriers max out at 18. His destroyers and destroyer escorts might escape if they abandon the carriers. But that means leaving MacArthur's invasion fleet completely unprotected, leaving thousands of soldiers on the beaches to be slaughtered by Japanese naval bombardment. Sprague makes his decision in seconds. Taffy 3 will fight. All ships. Make smoke. Launch aircraft. Turn south and run while the screening ships buy time. It's the only option. Run and fight, and pray for a miracle. Commander Ernest Evans on USS Johnston doesn't wait for orders. He's already turning toward the enemy. He's going to attack. Alone if necessary. 0650 hours. USS Johnston turns hard to port, away from Taffy 3, toward the Japanese fleet. Commander Evans doesn't request permission, doesn't coordinate with other ships, just makes the decision and acts. His crew realizes what's happening. They're charging 4 battleships, 8 cruisers, and 11 destroyers. Alone. In a destroyer. This is suicide. But Johnston's crew trusts Evans completely. They've trained for 2 years under his aggressive leadership. They know he'll never abandon the carriers. Never run while others die. If Evans is charging, there's a reason. The crew races to battle stations. Gun crews load armor-piercing shells. Torpedo crews prepare their fish. The engine room pushes for maximum speed. Johnston accelerates to 35 knots, racing toward the Japanese heavy cruiser Kumano. The Japanese can't believe what they're seeing. One small destroyer charging their entire fleet. They assume it's covering a larger force. That American battleships must be nearby. Why else would this tiny ship attack? They focus fire on Johnston. Shells bracket the destroyer. Water spouts 200 feet high. Red and green dyed water from different Japanese ships. Each salvo getting closer. 0710 hours. Johnston closes to 10,000 yards. Torpedo range. Evans orders all 10 torpedoes fired. They ripple from the tubes. White trails in the water racing toward Kumano. The torpedoes take 4 minutes to cover the distance. Johnston turns hard to escape while the torpedoes run. Japanese shells are landing dangerously close now. One hit will cripple Johnston. Maybe sink her outright. But Evans has already accomplished something crucial. He's thrown the Japanese battle plan into chaos, and he's given the other destroyers courage to follow his lead. 0716 hours. Johnston's torpedoes hit Kumano. The heavy cruiser staggers. Flooding. Damage. She slows and falls out of formation. One Japanese cruiser neutralized. But now Johnston is under concentrated fire from multiple ships. Shells landing all around. The destroyer disappears into smoke from near misses. Commander Evans' attack inspires the other screening ships. If Johnston can charge the Japanese fleet, so can they. USS Hull and USS Harriman turn toward the enemy. Both Fletcher-class destroyers like Johnston. Both commanded by officers who understand they're probably going to die. But dying while attacking is better than dying while running. USS Samuel B. Roberts, a tiny destroyer escort, also turns toward the Japanese. Her captain, Lieutenant Commander Robert Copeland, tells his crew, "This will be a fight against overwhelming odds from which survival cannot be expected. We will do what damage we can." Samuel B. Roberts is armed with 5-inch guns designed for anti-aircraft work. Her torpedoes are old Mark 15s. Slow, short range. She's the smallest ship in Taffy 3, and she's charging battleships. The 3 carriers destroyers and 4 destroyer escorts form a ragged line, racing through smoke toward the Japanese fleet, splitting up to attack from different angles, creating confusion, forcing Japanese commanders to divide their attention. Every destroyer and destroyer escort is launching torpedoes, firing guns, laying smoke, doing everything possible to protect the carriers behind them. This is the most lopsided surface battle in naval history, and the small ships are attacking, not retreating, attacking. The escort carriers race south at maximum speed, 18 knots, pathetically slow compared to Japanese cruisers chasing them. But Admiral Sprague has ordered continuous smoke. Every ship lays chemical smoke and makes smoke with their engines. The destroyers and destroyer escorts create smoke screens between the carriers and Japanese fleet. Thick white and black clouds that reduce visibility to 0. Inside the smoke, it's chaos. Ships can't see each other. can barely see 100 yards. Carriers are steering by instinct and radar, trying not to collide while maintaining formation. Japanese shells are landing blind into the smoke. Water spouts erupting randomly. Sometimes a shell lands 20 feet from a carrier. Sometimes it misses by 500 yards. Pure luck determines who gets hit. The carrier's aircraft launch desperately. Every plane, even planes without ammunition. Pilots take off armed with practice bombs, depth charges, and pure determination. Some planes have no weapons at all. They make strafing runs anyway, trying to distract Japanese gunners, trying to give the ships below a few more seconds of survival. Fanshawe Bay takes the first hit. An 8-inch shell from Japanese cruiser Tone punches through her thin armor, explodes below deck, kills crew, starts fires. But Fanshawe Bay stays in formation, keeps making smoke, keeps launching planes. She's damaged but functional. The other carriers watch nervously. If Fanshawe Bay can get hit and survive, maybe they can too. But the Japanese are getting closer, closing the range. Soon they'll be close enough that even blind firing into smoke will hit something vital. 0720 hours. USS Johnston emerges from her smoke screen. She's been hit. Multiple Japanese shells found her. An 18-inch shell from Battleship Congo struck her bridge. Didn't explode, but the kinetic impact destroyed the steering station. Another 14-inch shell hit her engine room. Killed crew. Damaged boilers. Johnston's speed drops from 35 knots to 17. She's crippled but still fighting. Commander Evans is wounded. The bridge hit through him across the compartment. Shrapnel injuries. Burns. 2 fingers on his left hand mangled. He refuses medical attention. Stays on the bridge directing the fight. Blood soaking through his uniform. His communication systems are destroyed. He can't coordinate with other ships. Can't receive orders. Johnston is isolated. Damaged. Alone against the Japanese fleet. But Evans doesn't retreat. Can't retreat with his engineering compromised. So Johnston keeps fighting. Her 5-inch guns fire continuously, targeting Japanese cruisers. The guns can't penetrate heavy armor, but they can damage superstructures, destroy antenna, kill exposed crew. Johnston's gunners are excellent. They hit what they aim at. Japanese cruiser Kumano takes more hits. Already damaged by Johnston's torpedoes, now taking shells. She's forced further out of formation. Johnston's crew works frantically to restore power and steering. Engineers bypass damaged systems. Welders patch holes. Damage control parties fight fires. The destroyer is hurt badly, but she's not dead. And as long as Johnston can move and shoot, Commander Evans will keep fighting. Johnston has bought the carriers 5 crucial minutes. But now the other destroyers are entering torpedo range. And they're all targeting the biggest threat, the battleships. 0730 hours. USS Hull launches her torpedoes at Battleship Congo. 10 fish in the water. Commander Leon Kintberger aims for the massive target. You can't miss a battleship, but battleships can evade if they see torpedoes coming. Congo turns hard, combing the wakes. Most torpedoes miss, but the maneuver forces Congo off course, away from the carriers. The battleship's 14-inch guns fall silent temporarily as she evades. USS Herman attacks Battleship Haruna. Commander Amos Hathaway brings his destroyer to point-blank range, 4,400 yards, less than 3 miles. Haruna's main guns can't depress low enough to hit Herman at this range. Her secondary guns fire desperately. Shells splash around the destroyer. Herman launches all torpedoes, turns hard and runs back into smoke. The torpedoes force Haruna to turn away. Another battleship temporarily neutralized. USS Samuel B. Roberts attacks heavy cruiser Chokai. Lieutenant Commander Copeland knows his old Mark 15 torpedoes are slow. Need to get closer. Roberts charges to 5,300 yards. Chokai's 8-inch guns are firing. Water spouts bracket the tiny destroyer escort. 1 hit will sink her. Roberts launches 3 torpedoes. They run true. Chokai turns hard to avoid. The torpedoes miss, but Chokai is forced away from the carriers. Every torpedo attack buys time, forces Japanese ships to maneuver, breaks up their formation, prevents concentrated fire on the carriers. The destroyers and destroyer escorts are sacrificing themselves, trading their lives for minutes, and those minutes are all the carriers need to keep running south, keep launching planes, keep surviving. The 6 escort carriers aren't defenseless. Each carries 28 aircraft, Wildcats and Avengers, not fleet carriers with 100-plane air wings, but enough to hurt Japanese ships if used correctly. And Admiral Sprague is using them desperately. Pilots launch with whatever weapons are loaded. Some have armor-piercing bombs meant for ground targets, useless against ships. Some have depth charges for submarines. Might damage a ship if they hit perfectly. Many planes have no weapons at all, just fuel and courage. They make dry runs anyway, diving at Japanese ships, forcing anti-aircraft fire, distracting gunners who should be targeting carriers. Lieutenant Commander Edward Huxtable leads his squadron against cruiser Chokai. His Avengers are armed with torpedoes, real ship killers. They come in low over the water. Anti-aircraft fire tears through the formation. One plane explodes. Another crashes into the sea. Huxtable pushes through, drops his torpedo. It runs true, hits Chokai amidships. The cruiser shudders, flooding, heavy damage. She slows, falls out of the Japanese formation. Eventually she'll have to be scuttled. More aircraft attack continuously. Some pilots make multiple runs, land on carriers, rearm with whatever ammunition is available, take off again, fly back into hell. Several planes are shot down, pilots killed, but their sacrifice buys time, forces Japanese ships to maneuver, prevents them from closing the range to the carriers. The Japanese expected an easy slaughter. Instead they're fighting a hornet's nest, torpedoes, aircraft, destroyers appearing from smoke. Nothing is going according to plan. 0800 hours. USS Hull has been hit repeatedly. She's on fire, listing, dead in the water. One engine destroyed, steering gone. Most of her guns knocked out. Over 40 shells have hit her. She's dying, but she's still fighting. Commander Kintberger is wounded, his bridge crew decimated, but the guns that still function keep firing. Gun crews load and fire manually when automatic systems fail. They're targeting Battleship Congo. Their 5-inch shells can't penetrate her armor, but they can annoy her, distract her. Every second Congo wastes shooting at Hull is a second she's not shooting at carriers. Japanese cruiser Haguro closes to finish Hull. Her 8-inch guns fire at point-blank range. Shells tear through Hull's thin armor like paper. Explosions below deck. More fires. More casualties. The destroyer is breaking apart. Kintberger gives the order to abandon ship. Surviving crew go over the side into the ocean. Some wounded men can't make it. They go down with the ship. 0855 hours. USS Hull capsizes and sinks. She fought for 2 hours after being crippled, killed and wounded hundreds of crew. But her sacrifice bought time, damaged Japanese ships, disrupted their attack. Admiral Kurita later said Hull's desperate fighting convinced him he was facing a much larger American force. One destroyer made the Japanese admiral doubt his intelligence reports. Hull is gone, but Johnston, Hirman, and Samuel B. Roberts are still fighting, and they're running out of ammunition. USS Samuel B. Roberts is a destroyer escort, the smallest dedicated warship in the U.S. Navy, 1,400 tons, built for convoy escort, not for surface combat against cruisers and battleships. But Lieutenant Commander Copeland is fighting her like a battleship, aggressive, fearless, insane. After launching torpedoes, Roberts charges closer to the Japanese line. Her 5-inch guns fire continuously, over 600 rounds. More ammunition than any destroyer escort has ever fired in a single engagement. The gun crews are loading and firing so fast the barrels glow red hot. Paint burns off from the heat, but they don't stop. Roberts is targeting heavy cruiser Chokai, already damaged by aircraft torpedoes. Roberts' shells hit her superstructure. Secondary explosions. More damage. Chokai is forced to turn away. Then Roberts shifts fire to cruiser Chikuma. Her shells hammer Chikuma's bridge and superstructure. The cruiser is hurt, bleeding, angry. Chikuma turns all her guns on the tiny destroyer escort that dares to attack her. 8-inch shells bracket Roberts. Near misses shower the ship with shrapnel. Then direct hits. One shell penetrates the engine room. Massive flooding. Another hits aft. Roberts loses power. Her guns fall silent. She's dead in the water. 0910 hours. Copeland orders abandoned ship. The crew goes over the side. Some men are wounded. Some can't swim. They help each other into the water. Watch their ship die. 0935 hours. USS Samuel B. Roberts rolls over and sinks. The destroyer escort that fought like a battleship is gone. But her crew in the water can see the carriers are still running, still surviving. Roberts bought them enough time. 0920 hours. USS Johnston is still fighting. She's been hit over 20 times. Her speed is down to 10 knots. Most of her guns are destroyed. She's on fire in multiple locations. But Commander Evans is still on the bridge, still directing what guns remain, still fighting. Japanese destroyer Yukike's closes to finish Johnston. Evans orders his last functioning gun mount to engage. Gun 51. A single 5-inch gun against the destroyer loaded with torpedoes. The gun crew fires. Hits Yukike's bridge. The Japanese destroyer launches torpedoes at point-blank range, but they pass under Johnston. Set too deep for such close range. More Japanese ships close in. Johnston is surrounded. Multiple cruisers and destroyers firing. There's no escape, no way to win. Evans orders abandon ship. The surviving crew goes over the side. Many are wounded. Some can't move. Evans stays on the bridge with the injured who can't be moved. He won't abandon wounded men. Won't leave his ship while anyone remains aboard. 0945 hours. USS Johnston rolls over and sinks. Commander Ernest Evans goes down with his ship. His body is never recovered. 186 of Johnston's 327 crew die, but the destroyer fought for 3 hours. Damaged multiple Japanese ships. Drew fire away from the carriers. Evans will posthumously receive the Medal of Honor. The first Native American in the Navy to earn it. 2 destroyers dead. 1 destroyer escort sunk. But Hirman and the 3 remaining destroyer escorts are still fighting, and the Japanese are hesitating. The escort carriers are being hit, despite the smoke, despite the destroyer's sacrifice, despite everything. Japanese shells are finding targets. USS Gambier Bay takes multiple hits from cruiser Chikuma. 8-inch shells punch through her thin skin. Explosions below deck. Fires. Flooding. The escort carrier is mortally wounded. She loses power. Dead in the water. A sitting target. More shells hit her. She's being torn apart. 0850 hours. Captain Walter Vuwig orders abandon ship. Gambier Bay is the first American carrier sunk by surface gunfire since the war began. Her crew goes into the water. Over 800 men swimming, wearing life jackets, praying for rescue. Some are wounded. Some die in the water before rescue comes. 0909 hours. Gambier Bay capsizes and sinks. The other carriers watch helplessly. Could have been any of them. Still could be. Japanese shells are still falling. Kalinin Bay takes multiple hits. 14 shells hit her. 1 hits an aircraft loaded with torpedoes. The explosion kills crew. Starts massive fires. But Kalinin Bay stays afloat. Keeps running. Keeps fighting. Fanshawe Bay takes more hits. Fires. Casualties. But her damage control parties are excellent. They contain fires. Patch holes. Keep the carrier operational. Admiral Sprague's flagship is hurt but functioning, still making smoke, still launching aircraft, still running south toward hoped for reinforcements. But Admiral Kurita is finally organizing his fleet for decisive attack. His battleships are maneuvering for clear shots. The slaughter of Taffy 3 is about to begin in earnest. 0911 hours. Admiral Kurita's battleship Yamato has a clear shot at the remaining American carriers. Range is closing. His cruisers are in position. His destroyers are ready to finish off any cripples. Taffy 3 has no destroyers left to make torpedo attacks. No tricks remaining. Just slow carriers trying to outrun ships twice as fast. This is the moment Japan has been waiting for. Total victory within minutes. Then Admiral Kurita receives reports from his ships. Multiple torpedoes in the water. Aircraft attacking constantly. Ships damaged. Cruiser Kumano crippled. Cruiser Chokai heavily damaged. Cruiser Chikuma hit multiple times. His fleet is scattered. Ships have maneuvered independently during the battle. They're not in formation anymore. Communication is difficult. Kurita makes a decision that will haunt him forever. He orders a general retreat. All ships turn north. Break off the attack. The American carriers are right there, defenseless. But Kurita is convinced he's fighting a much larger force. His intelligence said only escort carriers. But these ships are fighting too hard, causing too much damage. They must be fleet carriers. American battleships must be nearby. This must be a trap. 0920 hours. Japanese ships turn away from Taffy 3. Start heading north back through San Bernardino Strait. Admiral Sprague on Fanshawe Bay can't believe what he's seeing. The Japanese are retreating. Retreating from a battle they were winning. Retreating from carriers they could have sunk in minutes. Nobody on Taffy 3 understands why they're still alive. They just watch the Japanese fleet disappear north. Stunned. Relieved. Alive against all odds. Over 1,000 American sailors are in the ocean. Survivors from Johnston, Hull, Samuel B. Roberts, and Gambier Bay. Men wearing life jackets. Treading water. Bleeding from wounds. Exhausted from hours of battle. And now they face a new enemy. Time. The water temperature is warm. Mid-80s Fahrenheit. But even warm water kills through hypothermia eventually. More immediately dangerous are wounds. Men bleeding into the ocean. Blood attracts sharks, tiger sharks, bull sharks. They circle the survivors. Some men disappear below the surface, pulled down by sharks. Others scream and thrash, then go silent. Fuel oil coats the water. Thick black sludge from sinking ships. It gets in mouths, burns skin, makes men vomit. Some men give up, take off their life jackets, sink beneath the surface, choose drowning over slow death from exposure and shark attacks. Lieutenant Commander Copeland from Samuel B. Roberts stays with his men, encourages them, tells them rescue is coming. Some men have life rafts, small inflatable boats. They pull wounded men aboard, pack the rafts beyond capacity. Everyone shares what little they have: water, emergency rations, space in rafts. The able-bodied men organize, count survivors, treat wounded as best they can with no medical supplies, keep morale up by singing songs, telling jokes, refusing to let despair win. They survive the battle. They'll survive this. Rescue has to come eventually, but rescue doesn't come quickly. The survivors will spend over 2 days in the ocean before rescue ships find them. Admiral Kurida's decision to retreat haunts naval historians. He had won. Complete victory was minutes away. Why did he turn back? Multiple factors combined to create doubt and hesitation that saved Taffy 3. First, Kurita was exhausted. His fleet had been under continuous attack for 3 days. Air attacks, submarine attacks, little sleep, constant stress. His flagship Yamato had been hit by bombs. His officers were fatigued. Decision-making suffers under prolonged stress. Kurita wasn't thinking clearly. Second, the Americans fought far harder than expected. Japanese intelligence said these were escort carriers with minimal protection, but the destroyers charged like heavy cruisers. Escort carriers launched continuous air attacks like fleet carriers. Samuel B. Roberts fought like a light cruiser. Nothing matched Japanese expectations. Kurita concluded his intelligence was wrong. These must be fleet carriers. Halsey's Third Fleet must be nearby. Third, Japanese ships took unexpected damage. Kumano crippled, Chokai sinking, Chikuma heavily damaged. This wasn't supposed to happen against escort carriers. Fleet carriers have combat air patrols and destroyer screens this effective. Escort carriers don't. The cognitive dissonance convinced Kurita he was facing the wrong enemy. Fourth, communication breakdown. His ships scattered during battle. He couldn't contact all of them. Didn't know their exact positions or status. Trying to organize decisive attack without complete information seemed risky. Retreating to regroup seemed safer. All these factors combined created doubt where certainty should have existed. Saved Taffy 3 when nothing else could have. Pure psychological warfare defeated superior firepower. The battle ends around 0930 hours. Taffy 3 has lost 4 ships. USS Johnston, USS Hull, USS Samuel B. Roberts, USS Gamber Bay. Over 1,100 sailors are dead or in the water. Hundreds more are wounded. Every surviving ship is damaged, some critically. This should have been total annihilation. Instead, it's costly victory. But the carriers survived. 5 of 6 escort carriers are still operational. They're damaged, on fire, listing. But they're still making smoke and launching aircraft, still protecting the Leyte Gulf beachhead where American troops are landing. MacArthur's invasion continues because Taffy 3 bought enough time. Japanese losses are severe. Cruiser Chokai sinking. Has to be scuttled. Cruiser Chikuma heavily damaged. Will sink later from accumulated damage. Cruiser Kumano crippled. 3 other cruisers damaged. Several destroyers hit. And critically, the Japanese attack momentum is broken. Kurita's confidence is shattered. He'll retreat through San Bernardino Strait and never return. The battle off Samar, as it becomes known, is the most lopsided naval engagement in history where the weaker force won. 6 escort carriers and 7 screening ships defeated 4 battleships, 8 cruisers and 11 destroyers. Not through superior firepower, not through better tactics, through courage, through refusal to accept inevitable defeat, through sailors who charged when every rational instinct said run. But the battle isn't over for the men in the water. They still need rescue, and rescue is coming, but slowly. October 25, 1944, late afternoon. The first rescue ship reaches survivors from USS Samuel B. Roberts. USS Dennis, another destroyer escort from Taffy 3, begins pulling men from the water. They've been swimming for 6 hours. Some are delirious, some unconscious. All are covered in fuel oil. Dennis's crew throws cargo nets over the side. helps pull survivors aboard. Many men are too weak to climb. Sailors go into the water with lines to tie around survivors, haul them up manually. It's slow work, dangerous. Sharks are still circling. Some men disappear while waiting for rescue. USS Raymond rescues survivors from USS Johnston. Commander Evans' crew has been in the water longer. More casualties. More men dead from wounds and exposure. The survivors are in worse condition. Some have massive injuries that should have killed them hours ago. They stayed alive through sheer stubbornness. But full rescue takes days. Many survivors spend 48 hours in the ocean before being picked up. By that time, dozens more have died. Sharks, drowning, giving up. The final casualty count from sailors lost in the water matches casualties from the battle itself. The ocean kills as efficiently as Japanese shells. USS John C. Butler rescues survivors from USS Gambier Bay. Over 800 men went into the water when the carrier sank. Rescue ships find fewer than 700 alive. The missing 100 died waiting for help that came too late. The survivors who make it are changed forever. They watched friends die, watched ships sink, fought impossible battles. They'll carry those memories for the rest of their lives. Commander Ernest Evans receives the Medal of Honor posthumously. His Native American heritage makes him the first in the Navy to earn the nation's highest decoration. The citation describes his aggressive leadership and sacrifice, how Johnston's charge inspired the entire battle, how Evans stayed with his ship and wounded crew until the end. Lieutenant Commander Robert Copeland receives the Navy Cross. Samuel B. Roberts' incredible fight against cruisers and battleships earns recognition. Copeland's leadership under impossible circumstances saved most of his crew. They abandoned ship in time, stayed together in the water, survived. Commander Amos Hathaway from USS Herman receives the Navy Cross. Herman is the only destroyer that survives the battle relatively intact. She fought as hard as the others, made equally desperate torpedo attacks, but luck kept her from taking fatal hits. Hathaway's aggressive tactics disrupted Japanese formations repeatedly. Admiral Clifton Sprague receives the Navy Cross. His leadership kept Taffy 3 fighting as organized unit instead of panicked scatter. His decision to order the destroyers to attack while carriers ran was tactically sound. He kept cool under pressure that would have broken most commanders. But the real heroes are the crews, ordinary sailors, many teenagers, fresh from training, fighting their first battle. They loaded guns, fought fires, patched holes, launched planes, died at their stations. Their names aren't famous. Most aren't remembered individually, but collectively they saved the Philippine invasion. Taffy 3's battle becomes one of the most studied naval engagements in history. Military academies worldwide teach it, analyze the tactics, the courage, the impossible victory. After the war, American officers interview Admiral Kurita about his retreat. He struggles to explain his decision, says he believed he was fighting fleet carriers, that Halsey's battleships would arrive soon, that continuing the attack risked his entire fleet. These explanations don't satisfy American interrogators. They see them as excuses for abandoning certain victory. But Japanese junior officers provide different perspective. They describe the chaos of the battle. American torpedoes everywhere. Aircraft attacking continuously. Destroyers appearing from smoke. Firing with suicidal aggression. No coordination. No formation. Just chaos. It didn't feel like fighting escort carriers. It felt like fighting elite units willing to die. One Japanese officer recalls watching USS Johnston charge alone. Says it was the most aggressive destroyer attack he witnessed in the entire war. That one ship made them believe an entire destroyer squadron was nearby. That American reinforcements were arriving. Everything about the battle contradicted their intelligence. Another officer describes Samuel B. Roberts' attack. Says the tiny destroyer escort fought like a heavy cruiser. Her rate of fire was incredible. Her accuracy surprising. When she finally sank, Japanese sailors saluted her. Respect for enemy who fought beyond all reason, who died rather than surrender or retreat. These interviews reveal truth about battle off Samar. The Japanese expected easy victory. Instead they fought something they couldn't understand. Aggression that seemed insane. Sacrifice that seemed purposeless. But that aggression and sacrifice saved Taffy 3. The battle proves that courage and initiative can defeat superior firepower. That psychological warfare matters as much as tonnage and guns. That sometimes the smaller force wins through sheer refusal to lose. After rescue, Taffy 3 survivors are sent to hospitals, then reassigned to other ships. The Navy needs experienced sailors, can't afford long recovery periods. Most men are back on duty within weeks. Some request transfers to other ship types. Destroyers who fought battleships can't stomach the thought of doing it again. Lieutenant Commander Copeland from Samuel B. Roberts struggles with survivor's guilt. He led 224 men into battle. Only 120 survived. Over 100 dead. He questions every decision. Could he have saved more? Should he have retreated earlier? The Navy says no. Says his aggressive fighting saved the carriers. Saved the invasion. But Copeland dreams of his dead crew. Sees their faces. Hears their voices. PTSD isn't diagnosed then. Men are just expected to cope. Some survivors can't cope. Develop drinking problems. Relationship issues. Nightmares. The same symptoms Audie Murphy experienced. Combat trauma doesn't discriminate. Whether you fight on land or sea, violence breaks you the same way. Some men leave the Navy after the war. Never want to see ocean again. Never want to be on a ship. Others stay. Make naval careers. Serve for 20 or 30 years. But they never forget October 25, 1944. Never forget the ships that sank. The men who died. The impossible battle they survived. Taffy 3 becomes their identity. More important than rank or medals or later achievements. They form Survivors Association. Meet annually. Remember fallen shipmates. Keep the story alive. Tell younger generations what happened when destroyers fought battleships. October 25, 1944. While Taffy 3 fights for survival, American troops are landing on Leyte beaches. They don't know about the naval battle happening offshore. Don't know that Japanese battleships were hours away from bombarding them. Don't know that destroyers are dying to protect them. The invasion proceeds successfully. Troops secure beachheads. Supplies pour ashore. Within days, American forces control significant portions of Leyte. MacArthur famously wades ashore for photographs. Declares, "I have returned." The propaganda value is enormous. American morale soars. Filipino resistance against Japanese occupation intensifies. But the invasion only succeeded because Taffy 3 stopped Admiral Kurita's fleet. If those battleships had reached Leyte Gulf, they would have shelled the beaches, destroyed supply ships, killed thousands of soldiers. The invasion would have failed catastrophically. MacArthur would have been forced to retreat. The Philippines campaign delayed by months or years. None of this happens because 6 escort carriers and 7 screening ships refused to run. Because Commander Evans charged alone in USS Johnston. Because Samuel B. Roberts fought like a battleship. Because ordinary sailors did extraordinary things under impossible circumstances. They saved the invasion. Saved MacArthur's reputation. Changed the course of the Pacific War. Yet most of the troops landing on Leyte never knew. Never heard about Taffy 3. Never learned that destroyers had died so they could land safely. The battle was classified. Details remained secret for years. Only after the war did the full story emerge. And even then, Taffy 3 received less recognition than it deserved. USS Herman survived. She was damaged, hit by shells, but she remained operational throughout the battle. After the Japanese retreat, Herman helped rescue survivors, pulled men from the water, then returned to duty. She fought for the rest of the war, survived until 1945 surrender. After the war, she served in the Pacific Fleet until 1957, then sold for scrap. USS Dennis survived. The destroyer escort fought alongside Samuel B. Roberts, made torpedo attacks, laid smoke, rescued survivors afterward. Dennis served throughout the war, participated in later Philippine operations, survived kamikaze attacks, made it home to the United States in 1945, decommissioned in 1946. USS John C. Butler survived. Like Dennis, she fought hard and survived, rescued Gambier Bay survivors, continued fighting through the rest of the Pacific War, survived until Japanese surrender, decommissioned in 1946. USS Raymond survived. The smallest destroyer escort in Taffy 3 made it through, damaged but functional. She rescued Johnston survivors, fought in later battles, survived the war, decommissioned in 1946. The 5 surviving escort carriers all made it through the war. Fanshawe Bay, White Plains, Kalinan Bay, Kitcun Bay, and St. Lo. Though St. Lo was sunk later that same day by kamikazes. The first ship ever sunk by kamikaze attack. But she survived Taffy 3's battle. That's what mattered. These ships and their crews carried the memory of October 25th forever. They knew what Johnston, Hull, and Samuel B. Roberts sacrificed. They never forgot. The surviving ships received battle stars and commendations. But no recognition matches the simple truth. They fought the most lopsided naval battle in history and won. Military historians debate Battle off Samar constantly. Was it the greatest naval battle ever fought? Was it brilliant tactics or desperate improvisation? Could the Japanese have won if Kurita had pressed the attack? The arguments continue 80 years later. Some historians argue Taffy 3 won through superior American training and initiative, that Commander Evans' aggressive tactics represented American naval doctrine at its best, that the victory proved American fighting spirit exceeded Japanese discipline. This interpretation makes the battle about national character, American flexibility versus Japanese rigidity. Other historians argue Taffy 3 won through pure luck, that Admiral Kurita made catastrophic mistake retreating, that any competent Japanese admiral would have pressed attack and destroyed the carriers, that Taffy 3's survival was fortunate accident rather than earned victory. This interpretation diminishes the sailors' courage and sacrifice. The truth likely combines both perspectives. Taffy 3 fought brilliantly. The destroyers' aggressive attacks disrupted Japanese formations. The carriers' aircraft caused real damage. American sailors showed extraordinary courage. But Kurita also made mistakes. His decision to retreat was error. A more aggressive admiral might have won despite Taffy 3's heroics. What's undeniable is the battle's importance. It saved MacArthur's invasion. It broke Japanese naval power in the Philippines. It demonstrated that even inferior forces can win through courage and initiative. These lessons remain relevant for modern militaries. Battle off Samar is taught at Naval Academy, Staff College, war colleges worldwide, not as example of perfect tactics, but as example of courage under impossible circumstances. Movies and books about Taffy 3 struggle with one problem. The truth seems too incredible to believe. Audiences think it's exaggerated, that no one would really charge battleships and destroyers, that the Japanese wouldn't really retreat from certain victory. The story sounds like propaganda, but it's all true. James Hornfisher wrote The Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors in 2004. The book became bestseller, brought Taffy 3's story to mainstream audience. But some readers complained the book exaggerated, made it too dramatic. Hornfisher responded by pointing to official records, Navy reports, Japanese documents. Every detail was verified. Reality was more dramatic than fiction could be. Hollywood attempted multiple film adaptations. All failed to get made. Studios worried audiences wouldn't believe the story, that critics would accuse them of jingoistic propaganda. How do you film 6 escort carriers defeating 4 battleships without seeming unrealistic? How do you show Commander Evans' charge without it looking suicidal and stupid instead of heroic? The paradox is that Taffy 3's story seems fake because it's so extraordinary. Destroyers don't beat battleships. Small forces don't defeat large ones. Desperate charges don't work. Except this time they did. This time every impossible thing happened. This time courage and initiative actually defeated superior firepower. The story remains relatively unknown compared to Midway or Normandy, partly because it sounds too good to be true. But it is true. Every word. 3 weapons saved Taffy 3. Torpedoes, smoke, and aircraft. None overwhelmingly powerful individually, but combined with aggressive tactics, they created chaos Japanese couldn't overcome. American torpedoes in 1944 were finally reliable. Early war torpedoes failed constantly, ran too deep, didn't explode. But by October 1944, the problems were fixed. Mark 15 torpedoes worked. When Johnston, Hull, and Heermann launched, those torpedoes ran true, forced Japanese ships to maneuver, break formation. That disruption mattered more than actual hits. Smoke screens transformed the battle. Chemical smoke generators plus engine exhaust created thick clouds. Japanese ships couldn't see through it, couldn't target effectively, had to shoot blind into smoke hoping to hit something. This negated their range advantage. Battleships with 26-mile range became useless when they couldn't see targets 2 miles away. Aircraft from the escort carriers attacked continuously. They didn't sink many Japanese ships, but they forced constant maneuvering, forced ships to focus on air defense instead of surface targets, created psychological pressure. Every time Japanese gunners focused on carriers, aircraft dove at them. They had to shift attention constantly, never got clear shots at primary targets. None of these weapons would have mattered without aggressive tactics. Defensive use of torpedoes and smoke wouldn't have saved Taffy 3, but Commander Evans' charge, Samuel B. Roberts' suicidal gun duel, Heermann's point-blank torpedo attack. These aggressive uses of limited weapons created victory from certain defeat. Modern naval doctrine studies this. How to make inferior forces effective through initiative and aggression. Taffy 3 is the textbook example. No central memorial exists for Taffy 3. The ships lie scattered across the Pacific seafloor, too deep for divers, too remote for visits. The wrecks are war graves, protected by international law, undisturbed since 1944. In 2019, billionaire Paul Allen's research team found USS Johnston's wreck, 20,000 feet deep, deepest shipwreck ever discovered. Video shows the destroyer resting upright on the seafloor, still recognizable, gun mounts visible, the bridge where Commander Evans died. It's eerie seeing the ship that fought so fiercely now silent in permanent darkness. Survivors hold annual reunions for decades. The last survivors die in the 2010s. USS Samuel B. Roberts survivors meet annually until 2018. Then there's no one left. The men who fought the battle are gone. Only their stories remain. Museums display artifacts when possible. The Navy Museum has Johnston's bell, recovered years after the war. Samuel B. Roberts anchor, photographs of the cruise, battle reports. But these physical objects can't capture what happened, can't convey the desperation, the courage, the impossible victory. The story survives through books, documentaries, naval history courses. Each generation rediscovers Taffy 3, learns about the destroyers that fought battleships, the sailors who charged when they should have run, the battle that shouldn't have been won. And each generation asks the same question. Could I do that? Could I charge into certain death for duty? Most people hope they never face that test. The men of Taffy 3 didn't get that choice. Modern militaries study Taffy 3 for lessons applicable today. Naval warfare has changed. Battleships are extinct. Missiles replace guns. But principles remain constant. Initiative matters. Aggression creates opportunities. Psychological effects exceed physical damage. The U.S. Navy teaches Taffy 3 at Surface Warfare Officers School, not the specific tactics. Modern combat is different, but the mindset, the refusal to accept defeat, the aggressive response to superior forces. These principles apply whether you're fighting with 5-inch guns or missile systems. Admiral Arleigh Burke, legendary destroyer commander in World War II, said Taffy 3 proved destroyers could influence battles far beyond their size, that aggressive small ships could defeat defensive large ships. His doctrine shaped U.S. Navy destroyer tactics for decades, influenced ship design, weapons selection, training priorities. Modern asymmetric warfare reflects Taffy 3 principles. Smaller forces defeating larger ones through initiative and unconventional tactics. Insurgents defeating armies. Small nations deterring larger ones. The specific weapons change. The psychology doesn't. Aggression and courage can offset material disadvantage. But Taffy 3 also teaches limits. 3 ships sank. Over 1,000 sailors died. Victory came at terrible cost. Modern commanders must balance aggression with preservation of force. Must know when to charge and when to retreat. Taffy 3 charged because retreat meant total strategic failure. Their sacrifice served purpose. Mindless aggression for its own sake is just waste. The line between heroic charge and pointless suicide is thin. Taffy 3 stayed on the right side. Barely. The tragedy of Taffy 3 is that help was close. Admiral Halsey's Third Fleet was only hours away. If Halsey had received accurate intelligence, if he'd left even one battleship group to guard San Bernardino Strait, if he'd turned back when Taffy 3 called for help, the battle might never have happened, or would have ended differently. Halsey was chasing Japanese carriers north, hunting Admiral Ozawa's decoy force. While Halsey chased empty carriers, Kurita's battleships attacked Taffy 3. The irony is that Halsey was doing exactly what Japanese planners wanted. The decoy worked perfectly, drew away American strength, left Leyte Gulf vulnerable. When Halsey finally received Taffy 3's desperate calls for help, he was 300 miles away, too far to intervene. He turned back but wouldn't arrive for hours. By the time Third Fleet reached the area, the battle was over. Japanese fleet retreated. Taffy 3 had won without help, or survived without help, depending on perspective. Halsey's decision to take his entire fleet north remains controversial. Some historians call it massive error. Others defend it as reasonable based on available intelligence. But the men dying on Johnston and Hull didn't care about Halsey's reasoning. They just needed help that never came. After the war, Halsey and the Taffy 3 survivors maintained tension. Not open hostility, but underlying resentment. Those sailors believed Halsey abandoned them. Halsey believed they didn't understand his broader responsibilities. Both perspectives have merit. War creates impossible choices. Sometimes everyone makes reasonable decisions that combine into catastrophe. The question that haunts Taffy 3's story, Why did they charge? Commander Evans in USS Johnston, Lieutenant Commander Copeland and Samuel B. Roberts, Commander Kintberger in Hull. They knew charging battleships and destroyers was suicide. They knew their ships couldn't win. They knew they would probably die. So why charge? Duty is the simple answer. Orders to protect the carriers. Naval tradition that screening ships sacrifice themselves for high-value units. Professional obligation. These explain the decision intellectually, but they don't capture the emotion. The choice to die for strangers, for mission, for duty. Some historians argue the commanders didn't fully understand the odds, that in the chaos and smoke, they didn't realize how badly outnumbered they were. This seems unlikely. Evans saw the Japanese fleet, counted the battleships and cruisers. He knew. He charged anyway. Perhaps the real answer is that men like Evans don't calculate odds, don't weigh survival against duty. They see enemy threatening people they're sworn to protect, and they attack. Not from calculation, from instinct, from character, from being the kind of person who charges toward danger instead of away from it. Most people aren't wired that way. Most people's survival instincts override duty. That's normal, healthy, smart. The men of Taffy 3 weren't normal. They were extraordinary. And extraordinary people do extraordinary things, like charging battleships and destroyers, like fighting for 2 hours after they should have died, like winning battles they should have lost. Taffy 3's story endures because it shows what humans can accomplish when they refuse to quit, when they value duty more than life, when they charge into hell because someone has to, and they're the ones there. October 25, 1944. 6 escort carriers and 7 screening ships faced 23 Japanese battleships and cruisers. They should have died in 30 minutes. They fought for 2.5 hours. USS Johnston, USS Hull, and USS Samuel B. Roberts sank fighting. USS Gambier Bay became the only U.S. carrier sunk by surface gunfire. Over 1,100 American sailors died, but the carriers survived. MacArthur's invasion succeeded. The Japanese fleet retreated from certain victory. Taffy 3 proved that courage can defeat superior firepower. That small ships with aggressive crews can beat large ships with hesitant commanders. That sometimes the impossible becomes possible. When tin cans fought battleships, the tin cans won. Remember Taffy 3. Remember the sailors who charged when they should have run.